Welcome to Soulful Conversations with Nadjejda. I'm Nadjejda Chapoteau. I am Haitian American. I am the host of Soulful Conversations with Nadjejda. I am an empowerment and confidence coach, spiritual teacher, and speaker. I love to dance. This was actually a song by a Haitian artist, Jay Perry, who I am so grateful that he has allowed me to use his music and I could share it with you all. I could dance on social media to it. Aside from dance, I'm very much passionate about nature, spiritual growth, spirituality in politics. I don't not sure if I said social justice. I'm passionate about social justice, empowering women and children in my homeland, Haiti. And it's very much in line with my work that I'm so passionate about is empowering women around the world in finding their voice, speaking their truth, being their authentic self, embracing who they are. I'm a firm believer that it is when we really take the time to get to know who we are, when we show up as who we are, that's when we can truly be a purpose. That's when we can make the impact that we were born to be, because we can't make that impact being somebody else. As a coach, I help ambitious and purpose driven women discover who they really are, find their voice, uncover their vision and mission, and define their values. So important work to do. Like I said, which is very much in line, sorry, with what I'm most passionate about. So today it's only me. This is actually a conversation that I've been having with myself. And I wasn't sure, I was asking, I don't know if I wanted to share this to invite other women of color and some white women to who are open to it to have this conversation with themselves to start really looking into their own way of their own internal ways of internalized racism or our own experiences supporting white supremacy. And I have to say, for me, this is a conversation that I've been seeing on social media. This is a conversation that I've been having with myself, specifically in this past year. I've had it be, I've started having it a few years ago, but even more so, I've been really because it's so much around me that I've been thinking about this. And there's this master class that I've been paying attention to, that I've been attending from last week and this week as well, which featured Black, Indigenous women of color only. And some of the stuff that has been discussed resonated with me. Some of this stuff really had me question some of my stuff. Like, I'm unpacking some of my things. And that's why I wasn't sure. I was like, you know what? Do I want to share this? Do I want to talk about this? But then I thought, you know what? I'm all about being vulnerable. And I have to say, for me, we're living, well, it's not for me. Like, we're living in a time where white supremacy is being dismantled, where we're talking a lot about white supremacy, how some white women are supporting, many white people are supporting white supremacy, some of them even without knowing it, and how some of us have these internalized racist thoughts that we may not even realize it. And for me, while I do notice that I see mostly women of color calling out white women, especially in the circle that I'm in, I'm seeing white women being called out. I think it's because of this whole women movement that's happening in the US right now. Well, what I'm not seeing, but the thing is that what I have been experiencing and noticed, and when I say experience, not personally, although some of it personally, but well, not directed personally at me, is I do believe that us women of color, and maybe I think sometimes when people talk about this men, supporting white supremacy and really looking at your racist thoughts, really looking at your, what do you need to unpack when it comes to racism. I think for a lot of us sometimes, we're a person of color, we might be thinking, oh, they're not talking to me because I'm good. I'm good. I don't have anything that I need to unpack. I don't have anything I need to unlearn, anything I need to actually discover about me that I need to heal, that I need to eliminate, that I need to get rid of. And I do believe also, I've seen it. There are women, white women, and maybe even some white men. I mean, I don't know who's going to be listening to this, who may be thinking, oh, I love Black people. I have Black friends. I'm for I'm in the movement. I support Black Lives Matter. I support colored people. And they are actually they're thinking they don't have anything to unpack. So really this conversation that, I want to share, it's sort of like my own reflections. And like I said, I'm actually moving through this. I'm actually unpacking this right now, which is why I was like, I don't even know if it's the time to bring this up, but I just felt the need to bring it. And thought I would invite some of my sisters to join me in this. Some of my women of color and, women of color, sisters, and maybe, those of you who are white sisters who feel called to, and maybe even men, whoever you are, you're listening to this, you're listening to it for a reason. I have been really, like, one of the stuff that really came forward for me is that I want to, I started noticing that, one of the things that I got when, I think it was Dr. Frontonia, I don't know if it was Collins or Paulins, I don't want to butcher her name. She talked about how, white people tend to say they're colorblind. They don't want to see color. And one of the things she was saying is that when you don't see color, then you can't see your own privilege. And it got me thinking about how, in some way, I was raised being colorblind. I grew up in Haiti, Haitian American. Yes, I grew up being privileged in the country I live in. Haiti is a very poor country. I would, my family, you would call us being privileged, especially growing up. I never, although, I would hear certain things here and there. I actually remember moving into this new neighborhood when my parents got this land and they built a house. And even some of my friends, when I would go visit that area, which in the moment, the area, most of the people were not privileged. It was an area that wasn't really a lot of people who were privileged did not live in that area. I remember that some of the, the little kids of the people in the area, they would refer to my sister and I as white. They would call us tibla, like little white children or whatever. And I knew I wasn't white, but it's sort of like to show you how I was like, okay. And even to this day, sometimes I would just this past weekend, I was at a funeral. It was a Haitian person who passed, a family friend, and a family friend. And this person, somebody that I didn't know, the guy came up to me and he said to me, "Are you Haitian?" I'm like, "Yes, I am." And that happens to me quite often in certain areas. I was kind of surprised at that place that I was at, but it happens to me. So in some way, I have to say that I have not experienced, I don't have the African American experience. I don't have the experience that other Blacks who grew up in the States have experienced. And I grew up, like I said, really in some way being colorblind. Like I never got the talk, you know, where I had to be better, I had to do more, and all of that. And one of the things, like when she said that, I was like, you know what, was it a disservice to myself and to other people of color when we are raised to not see color in a way? Um, was that a disservice? Because in some way, you know, especially for those of us who were not raised here, and that's another thing, I see it on social media, people who are Latin, Hispanic women who are my coaching colleagues, who really don't talk about those things. They're living in a bubble. And really, I feel like we need to look at, you know, maybe in some way, like me, they were not raised with that, you know, with that particular, you know, like seeing color, you know. So for them, they think, okay, we're all one, which we are. But it's just that in some way too, what happens is that, I know for me, I could never get why, you know, African Americans and very, you know, some people, and even some of my Haitian sisters and brothers who actually grew up here, unlike me, were, you know, had this way of thinking, and very much talking, very much like race being a forefront, blackness being something that's really, really, like they just really, really talked about. And for me, I knew I was black. Nobody would, like, I would never, it's not that I didn't think I was, I just never made it such a big deal. um I dated white men. I was, you know, I was in a relationship with a white man, and when my parents met him, there was no talk about like anything. And I remember one of my girlfriends said to me that I was brave because I had done that. So the thing is that, you know, it's sort of like making me look at, okay, maybe, you know, it's not, you know, maybe being colorblind is, you know, was that a good thing? But also, one of the things that she also mentioned is she talked about how, for many of us blacks who have had that talk, who have had that thing that we were told that we're, you know, we always have to do more, we always have to do more, that in some way we also have been sort of like, I'm not sure what the right term is for it, but I'll use the word brainwash for now, that we have been sort of like taught that we have to always do more, like it's never enough. And in some way, we're actually like, our mindset is at a different place than others, and because of that, we are actually, we've had negative consequences due to that thing. Because in some way, I know just the other day, actually, I was actually talking to my sister about that recently, is how, you know, she was telling me how she experienced something like, even though for us it wasn't race, but we grew up in a home and we grew up around people, and very much we see that a lot in the Black community, and maybe it could even be some other colored community, is where you have to, you know, you it's like, when, if you make a mistake, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. It's like almost like it's the end of the world, whatever. And how she was telling me that she was working with this bank in New York. And she was like, you know, if she made a mistake, it was a big deal. And they would be like, no, it's okay. Like how, and that's another thing, like we tend to beat ourselves up. We tend to really, like our mindset, like we're shaming ourselves, we're blaming ourselves. We do use a lot of shame in some of these communities, and not only do we shame others, but we're shaming ourselves as well. So it got me thinking about that. So for me, by doing these reflections, by doing this unpacking, I'm also looking to see, what is it that I actually want to hold on to, you know? Because for example, you know, thinking about not seeing color, like for me, it wasn't until the whole thing started happening with Trayvon Martin and Mike Brown and all of that, when all of, you know, Tamir Rice, when all of this stuff started happening, that's when I started. And then, being in DC, I remember, which is what I was, in my late 30s, mid to late 30s, when I got a job in DC, my first job after I left Miami and moved to DC. And one of the director of my program, who was Haitian American, I was working with the Red Cross at the Haiti program. It was after the Haiti earthquake, the 2010 earthquake that had devastated very big Port-au-Prince and some other parts of Haiti. She called me and this other girl, Ann, because we were both hired together, and basically was telling us how we need to be mindful and we have to do everything right because we're going to be looked at because we're Black. Like, for me, it was like, what are you talking about? Like, because I've never had that. My parents never taught me that because I'm Black, I have to be mindful and I can't mess up. People are going to be watching me and I have to do better. Like, so, but either way, after being exposed to that, and I remember once I was in a African American home with a friend, and they were talking about interracial relationships, and the Black men were totally against it, the people around there. And I revealed that I had been in a relationship with a white man. He was my boyfriend, he was my partner. It wasn't just a dating thing. And I had dated white men in the past, I think probably one more, but and it was very much frowned upon. And I just couldn't really, like, I was like, what did I do something wrong? And sort of way making me feel like in a way that I did something wrong. So for me, I've been like, that's sort of like the way that I've been like. So for me, as I'm looking at, okay, looking at spiritual bypassing, which is something that is very much a big part of the online space of the spiritual community. As I mentioned, I'm a spiritual teacher. I've been looking at, okay, am I practicing spiritual bypassing, being mindful of the words that I'm using. An example, spiritual bypassing, gaslighting is a way of like just like spiritual bypassing is like people telling you, oh, you only want to talk about high vibe things. Some people steer away from controversial topics. Some people, oh, you don't want to talk about this because it's going to bring down your vibration, because you have to keep your vibration high. And that's why I wanted to talk about this, is because I do see a lot of us women of color doing this, especially in the Latin community. And for me, if anything, one of the things that I could say is that what I did not experience it really personally in Miami, or I did not experience, a Black person telling me this and that in Miami before moving to DC. When I moved to Miami when I was 16, and then, later on, I went to school, got my bachelor's degree before I got my master's. And I remember working for a program, and it was a minors program. It was refugees. So I had Haitians, we had Hispanics, people from Mexico, El Salvador, Hondurans. We had, different nationality, mostly Mexico and like I said, the Salvadorians, and I did notice. So for me, because of my complexion, and at the time I wasn't even wearing my hair naturally, people often thought I was Hispanic, and I still get that many times. Although in DC they think I'm Ethiopian. But the thing is that what I did notice how Haitian kids were treated differently in the program that I was in. I saw Haitian children being treated differently. I saw them being discriminated against. Like, I did see the racism. And this is why I often say that people of color are racist as well when it comes to race. Because in some way, a lot of places around the world, and even in Haiti, it's not just a social class thing. People are taught that dark skinned people, black, the darker your skin, you're not good, or, there's something like it's bad, it's ugly. So I remember this woman told me, "Oh, you're not black." And I was like, "Yes, I'm black. Don't try to," and I even said to her, don't try to, because they were talking about black people. And I said, do you realize I'm black? I'm here. I'm right here. And she said, "Oh, no, you're not black." I said, "Yes, I'm black." And she was like, "Oh, you're not." I was like, "Yes, I am." But the thing is that, so what I'm saying is, I experienced it. And this is why I wanted to talk about it. I saw it. I saw it happening to my fellow Haitian brothers and sisters in my own program. I chose, for me, because for me, I've always been fair. And that has been my thing, is that, I see people say they only support businesses. That's not me. I'm not into that. I'm not into that. I'm not going to support other businesses. That's just not the way I was raised. And as somebody who takes what she feels resonates with her, with who she really is, with who she thrives to be in life, and from what I was raised, take the ones that resonate with me, the ones that don't, I throw it away. This one doesn't resonate with me, even though I'm a lot more aware of racial, justice, of racial injustices. I just am not for that. I will, like in my podcast, I will keep featuring all women. Actually, I want to bring in other types of women, other women from other cultures that I haven't brought. I think I've only brought in one Asian. I'm in talks to bring in somebody from India. I want to bring more women from the East. I'm still going to be bringing in white women. I do want to feature a lot more women of color, which I have. Like the other day, I was looking at my guests. I have been bringing a lot of my sisters with me in this journey. I've been featuring them. So, I was looking at how, so yes, going back to what I was sharing. So when this whole thing was happening with Trayvon Martin, it's like in some way, and I remember even one of my girlfriends, she was like, "Oh, this is so bad because now, we have to think about race." And it's happening because we all have our own unpacking to do. We all have to look to see how, I know for myself, I don't know if I would say that when a white guy comes around that I feel unsafe, but I know sometimes I'll drive in certain neighborhoods and I'll see a black guy and I'll lock my door, or I won't feel comfortable being in the elevator. Sometimes with not just any black guy, but I will go by probably the way the person looks, how he's dressed, how his hair is. So I have to like really pay attention to all of that. I'm unpacking my own things. And I shared once how on Facebook, and I shared it in a way I was like, "Oh my God, what are people gonna think about me?" And even saying this, even doing this here, how, recently when the whole thing with the school, with the March of Our Lives, before the march, I saw a post where they were saying, because people were, Oprah had given the kids money. George Clooney, I think he's the one, his wife started it, Steven Spielberg. But anyway, I saw this post on somebody's page that said that, that they did not support the kids' Black Lives Matter movement. Some of the young people in Chicago and other places were in Ferguson had come out, but they were not supported that way. I went right into the way I've taught, and that is ingrained in me still, that I've been working on unpacking, because my immediate thought at first was like, "Oh yeah, there you go again. There they go again, complaining. Like there they go again, complaining." And I had to stop myself. I had to say, wait a minute. I realized, wait a minute. It is true that these children who are white and Hispanic in Florida, which are like less than an hour away from me, the way the spotlight on them, I mean, they have proven to us over and over again. Yes, I know Hispanics get shot in the US as well, but they have proven to, especially coming from a place like Miami where I see it, they often prove to us that darker skin people's lives mean less. Black lives are not looked at the same. Black children are not looked at the same. Black children, Black people are not supported the same way. So I had to do my own work. And I shared that, and I shared the step that I went through, because I didn't want to just share this and say, hey, but then I have to show that, you know what? For me, I believe that when I share myself, when I open up, I can then empower and inspire somebody else in doing their own work. And that's why I decided to open up about this here. Um, and also, I know that some people might choose to unfollow me. I know that some people may choose to unsubscribe, unfriend, whatever it is. Okay. Um, Let me check my note, because I actually wrote down some of the stuff I wanted to talk about on this one. So if you guys will bear with me on video here, those of you on Apple Podcasts, iTunes won't get to see this. And I wanted to talk about going back to this, the spiritual bypassing is how telling people, you just need to feel good. Like, if you feel good, or don't focus on what doesn't feel good. You know, or I remember I have this particular person, I don't need to share their name, who was like, one time when a lot was going on in the Black community, she then went ahead and said, oh, just because some people, just because things are happening or things are bad for certain people, that doesn't mean that you can't celebrate what's going on with you. Like, for me, I thought that was very insensitive. Or telling people to not get distracted about stuff that's happening. So in some way you're being taught to put your blinders on, just focus on you, which is, for me, I have to say, that has been one of my issues with the spiritual world, in a way, with some of the spiritual leaders, is that they really teach us to put our blinders on and just focus on you, and not worry about what's happening. Because it's when you focus on you, when you change your own self, that the world will change, And no, I truly believe that as leaders, as people who are, we're change agents, that we actually do need to have these conversations. We don't have to always be talking about it if that's not part of our, our work or something, but acknowledge it. I know for myself, I'm a Black woman. So when Black men are being killed, when, like, look at the thing, what happened with Sandra Bland, that could have been me. That could have been a sister, a cousin, a friend of mine or something. So for me, if I'm going to be friends with you, if I'm going to buy from you and I'm going to work with you, it would be, I would want you to acknowledge what's going on with me and my community. And when you don't acknowledge it, for me, it really shows that, do you really care? And so that's another thing that, I really want to bring to your attention. If you're somebody, if you have a business and you care about working with people of color, and you say you care about humanity, look to see, where are you supporting white supremacy? Where are you, using spiritual bypassing? Where are you gaslighting? Where are you, like, not acknowledging people's experience? Like, one of the things that I've noticed, that for me, that was my experience, and that was with two specific men. I experienced this in DC, is when I'm Haitian. I grew up in Haiti, so I'm not like somebody who's never lived in Haiti. Is when I see people from the development world who think that they know my country more than me, and who actually want to tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about because they know more, because they're the expert. That is a way, and I think that's another way that many times people kind of shut minorities down, is by thinking that they know better, even though they don't know better than the person who's from the place, or dismissing the person's experience, So I really want you to, like, think about this for yourself, because that's one of the things I'm also doing the work, my own work. Um, just seeing, I'm looking at my notes here. Yes, so what I realized I didn't share is that I started noticing me as a Black woman, knowing I'm Black, but it's like it became more like I'm the only Black person in the room, is when the whole racism conversation was like, when those kids, those young men, those men were being killed. That's when I started paying attention. Like, I remember I would use, stock photos for my business, and I would be like, okay, oh, if I use a white woman, what are Black people gonna say? If I use a woman who looks like me, or if I use the, like, I just became like a lot more aware, and even like in some ways like self-conscious, but also in a way it made me feel uncomfortable. So, I just really want to share this, is for you to really look at yourself. Like, I'm really looking to see, and like, I know for myself, I've had conversations with cousins in the past, and I'm talking like years ago, where in some ways some of us have said that we relate a lot more to white people. And it's just because of our upbringing, and it really made me think about this. Is it that because I didn't give other people the opportunity to get to know them or something? So I have to, I'm really looking at because that's one of my goals with this, for me, is not only to become more aware, to remove what's not serving me, what's not serving humanity, and also, but also to hold on to what is it that for me, who I'm choosing to be. Because I know for me, I'm somebody who's pretty much exclusive. When I say inclusive, actually, what I mean by that is I'm open to working, collaborating with other people, with everybody. I'm not from the school of like, or the of like, oh, I only support this type of business, I only support that type of thing. No, that's just not me. I am being more mindful, and I am really looking at supporting and giving a voice more to women of color now, because of the fact that it's true, we're not being featured in many places. We're not being, and we don't have many of us, we don't have the resources that we're able to, that other women have, that, for example, white women. So I thought I'd, have this conversation with you, or share some of my reflections, some of the stuff that I've experienced, some of the stuff that I've been questioning from my own experience, is to really, now when I'm the only woman in the room, I can see I'm the only woman, or I'm the only Black person. Like the other day, I went a few months ago, earlier this year, I was at a workshop in New York, and I noticed that I was the only dark skinned woman. When I say dark skin, I know some people may say, well, I was the only darker skinned woman in terms of women of color. I didn't see any of my dark skinned sisters. I did not see them there. And it made me think about that. It made me take it away, is that, okay, does those two coaches, one of them I've worked with, does she not attract these people? Sorry. You see, that's the thing. Does she not attract women like who are darker skin? Like, it made me think about that. So, just really open, like, for me, I'm like, I'm being vulnerable with this. And like I said, I'm still like unpacking this. So just wanted to share this, to really invite you in your own world, in your own life, in your own business, to look at where are are you being, do you have biases towards Black people, towards other colored people? Do you have, are you doing some spiritual bypassing? Are you practicing spiritual bypassing? Are you like not talking about things? And like I said, it's not about like me who does Facebook lives on those topics many times. It's not like, or somebody that that's all they're doing, or it's not even about that, but are you at least acknowledging? Are you acknowledging what's going on in your own communities? You know, your clients, the people that you're looking to work with, the people whose lives you're looking to impact, that you may even be impacting already, whether it is through your free content or through your courses. Are you actually acknowledging their pain and suffering and the way that society is treating them? You know, because in some way, I often say that it's because of your privilege that you're not talking about it. And I do think that many of us who are people of color have a certain type of privilege. Some of us, like some Latin women, I'm not going to say a lot of us, but I do see some of them in the online space who are really not even touching this subject, not even like a one word. And I think for me, as a woman of color, I have chosen that it's not just enough to call out white women and white men, white people in general, on their stuff. I think we also have a responsibility to do our own work. You know, actually, as I was getting ready for this, I remember once, I think I may have had this conversation a while back with a friend, and I think one of the things that I think I've heard people say is that, well, it's white people who have made people think negative about blacks. It's like, for example, I had a black man that I dated. And one time we were together and he told me, oh, you know, I like you. I chose you because you're white meat. So even us black people, we have our own internalized work, you know, racism, internalized biases to do. I don't know if I call it racism, because I know some people say black people can't be racist. That's something that for me, I'm still not really on board with, but I choose to listen. I'm open to it. I'm open to learning. But basically what I was sharing is that I truly believe that we also have our own work to do. And going back to what I was saying, so even if it's colonialism, it's white people who have colonized, you know, all these continents and all these places is why we think the way we think. I still think that, you know what, well, we need to be aware of it in order to release it, in order to eliminate it, in order to dismantle it and let it go. Because if I'm only here as a person of color, and I'm just saying, oh yeah, you know, and that's one of my questions that I want to ask when I bring in some of these experts is, why are we only, does it seem to be a focus only on white women, white people doing the work? I get that. I get they need to. But I'm just curious as to why there's not enough address on us colored people doing our own work, because we have our own work to do. Because you know what? I see it in my homeland, Haiti, where in some way there's a certain class of people who have come and taken the master's role. So that is the thing. And I think that's what happens when you don't do your work. You know, you might be against something, but then you end up doing the same as the other person. So if you don't do your own work, you're going to do the same as, you know, let's say we dismantle white supremacy in our lifetime, you know, or our children's lifetime, because that's another thing. Until we do our own work, we're going to bypass it to our children. Although I have to say, I'm very much proud of this new generation, but I'm just, you know, I'm just thinking that, you know what? And sometimes you wonder, are these kids who are what they call that word woke, how are their parents? You know, maybe their parents are woke too. So what about those of us who may not be woke? So, or whatever word you want to use, who may not be awake, who may not be aware of our own work, then we pass it on. It passes on to generations. So like I said, it's something that I'm working through myself. Actually, this was really not prepared. I just thought I'd just go out on my own with it. And I'm sure I'm going to be talking about this more. Actually, I want to talk to other women of color to see, to hear their thoughts, to hear their views, and I'll probably even bring somebody in to be a guest and talk about this with me, you know. So I'm inviting you, if this resonates, do your work. Start asking yourself questions, start looking at those, you know, how are you being in this world? How are you being in your business? How are you being in your life? And do your work if you're not proud of it. Because I think sometimes we just, you know, let's not talk about it, let's not think about it, so that we don't have to deal with it. Because when we, and for me, I have to say, probably the reason why I'm having this conversation here and it's been on my mind is because I'm doing my work, and it's like I've had to do it because it's been on my mind. So it's time for me to do it. It's been time for me to do it. I've been doing it slowly but surely, and more and more and more these days. And in some way, I've even been asking myself, and that's another thing for you. Maybe you're listening to this and it truly resonates with you, and that's something you've been wanting to talk about. Maybe we're being called to be leaders in that part. Maybe that's our role. Our role could be to, you know, maybe, and I know for me, it's something I'm asking myself that question, is that, is my role, because it's something that I feel so passionate about. It's something that I often can't stop thinking about, and I want to talk about, and I want to write about, and I want to share about, is that, is it my role to actually be a leader and invite and create and inspire and empower other women of color, other people of color, to do our own work? And maybe we'll inspire some white women as well who are our allies, white men who are allies, anybody who's listening to this, anybody who listens to us. So again, do your work. I hope you find this helpful. I would love to hear from you. If you are listening to me through iTunes, Apple Podcasts, please leave a review. I would love to hear from you. I would love for you to rate this. I'd love for you to, you know, give us some rating, you know, some star ratings. Then you could, you know, if you don't want to miss any other episode, subscribe to my podcast, Soulful Conversations with Nadjejda. You're also welcome to visit my website, www.lovelikecoaching.com, lovelikecoaching.com. If you want to connect with me, if you want to subscribe to my email list and get lots of tips and inspiration from me every week. And if you're listening to this on my website, on video, on YouTube, leave me a comment. Let me know what came up for you, what resonated with you. Give it a share. Those of you on Apple Podcasts too, share it. I really, for me, like I said, this was really raw. This is me going really raw. I did not really do a lot of preparation for this. I was even thinking, I don't know if but I'm like, you know what? I often say that whatever's calling me in my heart is what I need to talk about. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. We're in this journey together. And you know what? If you don't feel safe sharing this anywhere, then share it on my website and share it with me. You know, let me know what your thoughts are. And if you don't want to miss any other episode, every week I email an episode to my email subscribers. Below the video, you'll see there's a box below the text part. You can subscribe to my email list, enter your name, your email address. And once you do so, first you'll get my gift, which is my free gift to you, 7 questions to help you reconnect with yourself and have an aligned message in your business. Even if you don't have a business, it's actually a lot more about reconnecting with yourself and knowing who you are and what you value. So still take advantage of it. It's a powerful one. I've used those questions myself in my own journey. And you know, you'll get that once you confirm your subscription. In addition to every other Thursday, you'll get an episode of a new episode of Soulful Conversations with Nadjejda. And also, you'll get weight tips and inspiration from me. So I would love to hear from you. Do your work. Let me know what came up from you. Give it a share if you find it helpful. And again, those of you on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, leave me a review. I'd really appreciate it. I would love to hear what you think, and please rate us. Thank you. And I am sending you all love and light. Until next time, I'll see you all.